Have you ever wondered what lies beneath the surface of Luzon? What hidden forces crafted its rugged peaks, broad plains, and winding coastlines? Beneath its beauty is a landscape shaped by powerful tectonic activity, constantly shifting, rising, and transforming. Hello everyone, my name is Christian Balmas, and today, together with my group mates, we will uncover the geological story that continues to shape Luzon into what we see today. So, starting with the northern island of the Philippines, we have the Luzon. Luzon is the largest and oldest of the oceanic islands of the Philippine archipelago and is the most populous region in the Philippines, burying 8 of the 17 regions of the country. Geographically, it lies in the northern part of the Philippines, making it the northernmost region of the country. Luzon is also classified as a morphotectonic hotspot due to its tectonic activity, and some of the major reasons onto why it is called a morphotectonic hotspot is because Luzon lies on the Philippine Mobile Belt, which is cut between the converging plates of the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate. And this plate collision results in intense tectonic activity, frequent crustal deformation, and rapid changes in the landscape, such as tectonic uplift and disinformation, making Luzon one of the most geologically dynamic regions in Southeast Asia. We have here a map that shows the topography and bathymetry of the Philippines. From the western side of the Philippines is the Eurasian Plate. From the eastern side is the Philippine Sea Plate, and these two plates converges in our Philippine Marble Belt where the Philippines lies. So another key reason for Luzon's geological activity is the presence of multiple volcanic arcs, like the Luzon Volcanic Arc, which we will discuss specifically later on. These arcs are formed due to ongoing subduction and faulting processes, and they contribute to frequent earthquakes, volcanic activity, and crustal shifts. And lastly, it is due to Luzon's complex fault system. And one of the major faults that greatly contributes to the crustal deformation and seismic activity of Luzon and or the Philippines as a whole is the Philippine Fault Zone, which is a major lateral strike slip fault that stretches from Mindanao in the south all the way to the northern tip of Luzon. Now, if we look at this image, we can see the major tectonic features of Luzon. To the west is the Manila Trench, showing the westward subduction of the Philippine Sea Plate beneath the Eurasian Plate. On the eastern side, we have the East Luzon Trough and the Philippine Trench. And most notably, we can see the Philippine Fault Zone cutting across Luzon. This fault not only splits Luzon into two geologically distinct regions, but it also branches into several fault segments in the northwestern part of the island, where it interacts with other regional faults.
Pleasant day, everyone. I am Joshua James H. Rabino, and now that we have been introduced to some of the tectonic features and tectonic settings of Luzon, let us now dig deeper and look at its regionals, geology, and tectonics. Starting with the geological backbone of Luzon's western margin, the Luzon Arc. The Luzon Arc is a complex massif of volcanoes resulting from structural growth due to tectonism. It originates in the coastal range of southern Taiwan, a place where tectonic forces crunch oceanic plates together to produce volcanic formations. The Luzon Arc is formed by the subductions of South China Sea Plate below the Philippine Sea Plate, developing along complex volcanic chains from Taiwan to central Philippines. Next is the formation of Luzon Arc. It was generated by the subduction of the South China Sea slope along the Manila Trench, according to Taylor and Hayes' study year 1983. The Luzon Arc is a volcanic island arc system that extends along the western edge of the Philippines, particularly around Luzon Islands and parts of the northern Philippines archipelago. Its formation is closely tied to plate tectonics, especially the process of subductions. The Luzon Arc formed due to the subductions of South China Sea Plate beneath the Philippine Sea Plate along the Manila Trench. This process created magma that fueled volcanic activity, forming the arc over millions of years. Through this presentation, the key features within the arc and its geological formations and the role of each segment will now be discussed. Let's start with the Taiwan. All of the extinct volcanoes in the coastal range and on the islands of Lanzhou and Lutao, late Miocene to 1.8 megaannum, comprise of the Taiwan section. The rocks on the Lutao Islands are primarily Pliocene 1.8 to 4.3 megaannum. In Taiwan, the extinct volcanoes in the coastal range and on the Lanzhou and Lutao Islands were active from the late Miocene to about 1.8 billion years ago. The Pliocene dominates the rocks present on Lutao, with rocks ranging from about 1.8 to 4.3 million years old. The Babuyan. There are more active volcanoes in the Babuyan segment, 10 megaannum presents, than in the other Luzon Arc segments. The Babuyan Archipelago has 3 islands, Calayan, Camiguin, and Babuyan de Claro. 3 petrographic and geological units ranging in age from 7 to 4 million years compose the islands of Calayan. The Babuyan segments has more active volcanoes than the rest of the Luzon Arc, and the volcano activity formed on the segments is between 10 million years ago until now. 3 of these islands, which is the Calayan, Camiguin, and Babuyan de Claro, are in the Babuyan Archipelago. Geologic Calayan Islands consist of 3 rock units of 7 to 4 million years old age. Next is the Northern Luzon. Mount Kagawa. Because it's erupted recently, this stratovolcano may be more closely related to the volcanoes north of Luzon than to the volcanic necks to the south. The Lingayen-Dingalan Fault divides this stretch from the Bataan segment. Mount Kagawa is a recently active volcano in the northern Luzon, and it might be more linked to the northern volcanoes than to the older in the south. This section is detached from the Bataan sections by the Lingayen-Dingalan Fault. Next is the Bataan. The Bataan lineament stretches over about 130 kilometers along central Luzon's western coast. Volcanisms started at the arc fronts volcanoes and subsequently spread to behind arc volcanoes. According to KAR, potassium-argon dating dates, the arc fronts volcanoes have dates between roughly 7 and 0.2 megaannum, while the behind arc volcanoes have dates between roughly 1.7 and later than 0.1 megaannum. The Bataan sections stretches just over 130 kilometers along central Luzon west coast. Magmatisms began in the arc front volcanoes 7 to 0.2 million years ago and later continued in the behind arc volcanoes 1.7 million years ago to the present based on potassium-argon dating. Lastly is the Mindoro. The Manila Trench, southern extensions of volcanic activity mostly occur along a lineament that crosses Mindoro for around 60 km and ends at the Tablas Fault. According to Devans and others 1988, this volcanic chain is known as the Mindoro Lineament, AFV. The Mindoro and Bataan segments are divided by the Bacolod Corridor. Volcanisms associated with the Manila Trench and the subductions of the South China Sea basement along the Mindoro Lineament. A 60-kilometer long lineation that terminates at a Tablas Fault is also found in Mindoro. This separated from Bataan by the Bacolod Corridor.
Then, we have the hydrogeology of northwestern Luzon, the Ilocos Foothill. which is situated at Region 1 or the Ilocos region, hence the name Ilocos Foothill. It lies to the east of the West Philippine Sea and to the west of the Cordillera Mountains, making them a kind of hilly transition zone between the flat coastal plains and the high mountain ranges. In these maps here, we can see exactly where the Ilocos region and the Ilocos foothills are located. The top right map shows the entirety of the Ilocos region in northwestern Luzon. The map at the bottom left shows the area where the Ilocos foothills lies. So the highlighted box, which is denoted as the study area here, is where the foothills are located. And we can see here that this zone stretches from the northern tip of Ilocos Norte through Ilocos Sur and to some parts of La Union. So, Ilocos Foothill. But what exactly is a foothill? A foothill or a piedmont is a small hill located at the base of a mountain. It acts as a transition between flat plains and taller mountains. Think of it like a gentle rise before you get to the steep slopes of a mountain. The Ilocos Foothill and much of the Ilocos region are mostly made up of sedimentary rocks. And we have here the three major periods of sedimentary evolution for the Ilocos Foothills. First is from the late Eocene to early Miocene. And during this time, the Ilocos Foothills were part of a basin where sediments were collected. These sediments came from an active arc located eastward and from exposed ultramafic rocks in the northwest. Next is the upper early Miocene to lower middle Miocene, and during this time, the region developed a wide, flat shelf near an ancient Cordillera mountain range. The presence of limestone during this time means that there was low volcanic activity and likely a calm, shallow sea environment. And lastly is the late Miocene up to the present period. And this period is marked by lots of tectonic activity. We can see this in the many breaks or the unconformities and reworking of older rock layers, which show the land has been shaken, shifted, and lifted repeatedly over time. This is a screen photo captured of the Ilocos Foothill on Ilocos Sur using the Google Earth in the Ilocos region. And we can see here that these mini hills in the middle part are the Ilocos Foothills. And it acts as a boundary or the transitional zone between the lowland coastal area and the steep mountains of the Cordillera at the back. So the structural organization of the Ilocos Foothill is marked by a tectonic cutting up in 20 to 50 kilometers wide tectonic units or north-south tectonic strip that are continuous over more than 200 kilometers. These north-south tectonic strip are bounded by strike-slip faults related to the braided Philippine fault system in southern Luzon, and they exhibit topography with obliquely located ridges and basin. To better understand it, let's think of the Ilocos Foothill like a big chocolate bar that's been snapped into long thin pieces, where each piece is about 20 to 50 kilometers wide, and then it is continuous or it stretches for over 200 kilometers. Now, picture these strips being pushed and pulled, and those are the strike-slip faults connected to the Philippine fault system. This fault acts like scissors cutting the chocolate bar, shifting pieces around, and some strips slide past each other, some crack, and some move up or down. And as a result, the surface doesn't stay flat. So it's got ridges and dips that are slanted like someone pushed them at an angle. So the photo here shows the Ilocos Foothill, and from here we can see that it really stretches for a long distance from the northern tip part of Ilocos region to some parts of La Union in southern part of Ilocos. The Ilocos Foothill also appears to consist of three large tectonic units. These are the Vigan-Lawag coastal strip in the western side, the Vintormedian strip in the central region, and the eastern strip in the east. First is the Vigan-Lawag coastal strip. which consists of oceanic basement that has been heavily broken up by tectonic forces and is then overlain by a younger sedimentary layer that has not yet been disturbed or undeformed. The box area in the photo here shows the BLCS, and we can see here that it is mostly been covered up by the brown color, which are the sedimentary rocks, but there are still small areas where the ultramafic basements are visible. Next up is the Intermediate Strip, which is bounded by the Viganagao Range Fault and the Abra River Strike Slip Fault. It is composed of thick volcanic clastic sequence deposited in a basin. The box area here is the VMS. So the Viganagao Fault, or the West Ilocos Fault System that bound the VMS to the west, is a long, complex, active fault system that connects to the Philippine Fault Zone and is responsible for the major seismic and tectonic activity in the Ilocos region and the northern Luzon. The photos here shows the Viganagao Fault, and the photo at the right shows how it bounded the VMS to the west, while the left photo shows the trace of the fault. And we can see here that it exhibits a left lateral strike slip motion, which is denoted by the arrows, and it stretches from Bigan in Ilocos Sur to Agao in the northern tip of the region, hence the name Bigan-Agao Fault. Then to the east of BMS is the Abra River Fault. The box area in the photo shows where the Abra River Fault stretches. It is also a left lateral strike slip fault which acts as the central branch of the Philippine Fault in the Cordillera. And lastly, we have this tectonic unit in the east called the Eastern Strip. It is a late Eocene to Miocene volcanic clastic sequence intruded by Oligocene and Miocene rocks. The box area in the photo is the Eastern Strip, and we can see here two colors or two deposition. The violet is the volcanic clastic sequence, and the pink is the intrusive rocks that intruded it. Okay, so the structural patterns were the result of two major tectonic episodes, and these are the late middle to late Miocene episode, or the Abra River Strike Slip Faulting, and the Pliocene to Quaternary episode, or the shifting event to the Vigan-Agao Fault. The first tectonic event involved the activity of the Abra River Fault, where it moved and caused the rocks in a 20 kilometers wide area to fall. This movement also formed a ridge that cuts across the usual north-south direction because of a bend in the fault. Then later on, the fault activity shifted west, and this is our second major tectonic episode. So from the Abra River Fault, which became less active, it shifted west to the Vigan-Agao Fault, where the movement continued. Overall, the Ilocos region represents a complex tectonic zone shaped by layered volcanic and sedimentary deposits, major fault boundaries, and shifting strike-slip activity that highlights the region's dynamic geological evolution.
Good day everyone, I am Yashamin Kate Abbas, and I'll be presenting the fascinating Sierra Madre. So, first, in the first part, so makikita natin yung general overview ng Philippine Sea Trench. So, imagine nyo, humahaba ito ng mga 500 kilometers and sa silangang baybayin ng Luzon. Tapos, dumadaan ito sa iba't ibang provinces mula Cagayan hanggang Quezon. And ang importante dito is, itong trench na to is nabuo yan dahil sa nagbanggaan yung dalawang malaking plate sa ilalim ng lupa. Yun yung Philippine Sea Plate at yung Eurasian Plate. Specifically, yung Manila Trench na parte rin nitong system ay sumasabdak o dumudulas pababa doon sa ilalim ng Eurasian Plate. So, for the second slide is tinitingnan natin yung iba't ibang uri ng bato at kung ano-ano yung mga nangyari sa lugar na ito. So, for example is karamihan sa Northern Sierra Madre at Caraballo Range ay puro volcanic rocks at yung mga nabuo mula sa pagsabog ng bulkan. At meron din tayong tinatawag na ophiolithic complexes. So, isipin natin na parang yung mga tira-tira o labi ng dating oceanic crust, yung ilalim ng dagat. Tapos, mayroon ding alkaline plutons na ibig sabihin ay nagkaroon ng malalimang pagtunaw ng bato dahil sa subduction. So, luckily rin na may alkalic volcanic rocks pala sa Hilagang Caraballo na nagpapakita ng iba't iba yung pinanggalingan ng magma at iba-iba rin yung mga tectonic setting dyan. So, pati pala yung metamorphic rocks, yun yung mga batong nagbago dahil sa sobrang init at pressure, ay makikita sa timog silang bahagi ng Northern Sierra Madre. So, bihira lang din yung mga carbonate formations doon. At syempre, hindi mawawala yung igneous intrusive complexes. Parang malaking bulsa siya or socket na magmang tumitigas sa ilalim or magmang tumigas sa ilalim ng lupa. Tulad ng Dupax, Batholith at Palalide Pluton sa Caraballo Range. So, dito naman mas focus tayo sa pinagmulan ng pagbabago ng Sierra Madre. So, noong unang panahon, mga 23 to 40 million years ago, puro volcanism ang nangyari dito. Tapos, nagkaroon din ng mga pagpasok ng alkaline plutons dahil sa mga activities ng magma. Isang malaking pangyayari ito ng abduction sa Isabella Ophiolite. Parang yung mga dating seabed, umangat at napunta sa ibabaw. Pero dahil sa sumusunod pang tectonic events, ay medyo nagulo yung mga arrangement ng mga bato. Kaya binago rin yung mga dating paniniwala tungkol sa age ng metamorphic rocks kumpara dun sa mga ophiolite. And now, let's talk about the Philippine Fault Zone. Ito yung isang malaking fault or bitak sa lupa na bumabagtas sa buong Pilipinas. Yung mismong pangunahing line ng fault na ito is hindi direct na dumadaan sa gitna ng Sierra Madre. Pero yung mga trench nitong fault ay nakakaapekto sa kanlurang bahagi ng Sierra Madre at possible rin na dumadaan sa ilang lugar nito. Kaya itong Philippine Fault Zone ay nakakadagdag sa paglindol at pagbabago ng structure ng Sierra Madre, yung interplay or pagtutulungan ng subduction sa Manila Trench at yung paggalaw ng strike-slip fault sa Philippine Fault Zone system ay humuhubog sa Sierra Madre. For the 6th slide, titingnan natin kung paano nga ba nabuo ang Sierra Madre based sa mga batong makikita dito. So, yung Isabella Ophiolite is gaya ng sabi ko kanina ay indication siya ng isang malaking banggaan ng tectonic plates at yun yung pag-angat ng dating seabed. Ito yun yung parang foundation ng Sierra Madre. Tapos yung alkaline plutons naman, yan yung results ng pagtunaw ng bato dahil sa subduction. Kaya nakatulong yan sa pagbuo ng volcanism or volcanic formation ng bundok. At yung alkalic intrusives naman ay maaaring nagpapakita yan ng iba't ibang tectonic setting o ibang pinanggalingan ng magma. Kaya mas nagiging complex yung pagkakabuo ng Sierra Madre. And lastly is the Caraballo Range. So, kahit nasa kanluran ito ng Sierra Madre, is halos same lang yung mga geologic history nila. So, malamang na connected ito sa mga regional tectonic processes tulad ng subduction at arc volcanism. Yung mga volcanic rocks at yung mga plutons na pumasok dito noong early Miocene ay nagpapakita na halos sabay silang nabuo or same silang na-form. Pero yung later alkalic volcanism sa Hilagang Caraballo ay nagpapahiwatig siya na nagkaroon din ng pagkakaiba sa tectonic at magmatic evolution ito.
Good day everyone, I am Kenneth Nigel Duria from JLeng 2202 and today I'll be presenting on the Cagayan Basin of the Philippines. This presentation will cover the geographical context, tectonic setting, and structural provinces, and the evolution of this significant geological feature. Let's begin by exploring where exactly this basin is located. The Cagayan Basin is situated in the northern eastern Luzon, Philippines. It's bounded by the Cordillera Central to the west, the Sierra Madre to the east, and the Caraballo Mountains to the south. The basin is primarily drained by the Cagayan River, which holds the distinction of being the longest river in the Philippines. This map illustrates the basin's location and extent, showing how the surrounding mountain ranges has influenced its formation and the current characteristics. The Cagayan River Basin plays a vital role in the regional hydrology, agriculture, and overall ecosystem. Let's examine the tectonic setting of the Cagayan Valley in more detail. Geographically, as we've seen, the basin is flanked by impressive mountain ranges, the Central Cordillera to the west, the Sierra Madre to the east, and the Caraballo Range to the south. Its formation dates back to the late Oligocene to early Miocene periods, originating as an inter-arc basin due to arc rifting processes. The basin contains up to 7 kilometers of volcanic epiplastic and clastic sedimentary units, indicating the significant sediment accumulation over time. An interesting feature in the basin's asymmetry, with thicker sedimentary sections on the western side, suggesting tectonic influences from the uplift of Central Cordillera. This asymmetrical structure provides valuable insights into region's complex geological history. The central part of the Cagayan Valley can be divided into 3 major structural provinces, each with distinctive characteristics. First, we have the Kalinga foothills situated on the western side of the valley. Second is the homoclinal belt, which runs along the eastern margin of the valley. The third is the Cagayan Valley anticlinal belt. These structural divisions help us understand complex tectonic forces that have shaped this region and continue to influence its geological development to this day. Looking at the broader picture, this slide illustrates the schematic island arc evolution of Cagayan Basin. During the Plio-Pleistocene period, the region experienced significant regional uplift. The tectonic activity resulted in the deposition of the transitional marine and fluvial sediments ranging from 400 to 2,000 meters of thickness. These deposits formed what we know as the Ilagan and Awidon Mesa formations. The varying thickness of these sedimentary layers provides evidence of the complex and dynamic geological processes that we are active during this formative period.
Good day, I am John Winsel Masao from BS Geoleng 2202 and I will be presenting the Central Luzon Basin along with the features, processes, and other factors that contributed in shaping it. For starters, the Central Luzon Basin, as the name suggests, is located in the central part of Luzon with the Zambales Mountain Range to its west and the Sierra Madre Mountain Range to its east. It is a sedimentary basin formed by tectonic subsidence and deposition. Ibig sabihin, this tectonically formed geologic feature ay nagkaroon na ng significant accumulation of sediments kaya siya na-characterize as a sedimentary basin. And now in this juncture, we will be delving on the geologic evolution of the Central Luzon Basin, specifically the features and also the processes that contributed to shaping it. Generally, the evolution of the basin is quite complex. It started with the ongoing tectonic subsidence na epekto ng subduction along the Manila and the Philippine Trench. In this process, the Eurasian Plate subducts towards the Philippine Mobile Belt along the Manila Trench, causing an uplift or what we can physically observe as the Zambales Mountain Range, while the Philippine Sea Plate subducts westward towards the Philippine Mobile Belt along the Philippine Trench naman, also causing an uplift into what we can physically observe as the Sierra Madre Mountain Range. As a result of the compression along with the existence of high altitude geologic features, the structural depression of the basin became more and more defined as time passes. Up next is the Philippine Fault System. The Philippine Fault System is a major left lateral strike-slip fault which can result to either extension or compression. Although alam naman nating horizontal yung primary motion ng strike-slip faults, the extension and compression can also be caused by horizontal motion, which can cause bending as well, either uplift or subsidence. With that said, nakaka-apekto rin ito kung saan magde-deposit yung sediments or saan naman magbabulge upward yung lithosphere due to localized uplift or subsidence. Of course, we also have the volcanic arcs. Since there is an occurrence of subduction, it results to partial melting, leading to the development of prominent volcanic arcs such as the Central Cordillera to the west. With that said, this formation also contribute in shaping the Central Luzon Basin, since volcanic eruptions are also sources for the basin's sedimentary supply. For example, the Tarlac Formation and Bamban Formation, as you can see in the table on the presentation, both are rich in tufaceous sandstone and volcanic lastics, and both are found within the Central Luzon Basin. And lastly, we have the flexural loading. As mentioned earlier, the Zambales and Sierra Madre mountain ranges exist adjacent to the basin along with the volcanic edifice. The weight of these geologic features can cause the lithosphere to flex down, hence flexural loading. Flexural loading contributes to the cumulative subsidence within the Central Luzon Basin, which allow the accumulation of thick sedimentary sequences. And now, there are also several factors that contribute to the vastness of the Central Luzon Basin. First of all, we have the prolonged period of sedimentation. The Central Luzon Basin has been a depositional environment for a very long time, spanning from late Oligocene to the Pliocene and Quaternary periods. So that is over millions of years of continuous and episodic deposition of sediments from surrounding highlands, volcanic activity, and marine incursions, and those processes gradually filled the subsiding basin. And now we also have the tectonic stability relative to other parts of the Philippines. So just to clarify, the region of Central Luzon still experiences a lot of tectonic activities. Kumbaga, it's comparable or comparably stable lang compared to the rest of the Philippines. While the Philippines is a tectonically active region, as I have said, the Central Luzon Basin itself has experienced a relatively prolonged period of tectonic subsidence rather than significant uplift or intense deformation across the entire area. So, ibig sabihin, for a long period of time, stable lang siya na nakaka-experience ng tectonic subsidence. So, yung stable subsidence na yon, hinahayaan niya lang na mag-accumulate yung sediments ng, kumbaga, walang abala. Since if may major tectonic event, madaling magulo yung overall structure ng basin. Lastly, we also have the existing drainage system. So, in this region, since sobrang complex at well-distributed ng drainage system sa Central Luzon, take for example na lang yung Pampanga River system along with its tributaries, large amounts of eroded materials from different places, specifically yung surrounding highlands, are transported to the region. Even after that, hindi pa rin tapos yung process dahil yung materials from the basin can also be transported by the drainage system towards lower lying areas such as the Manila Bay. So, what does it imply? Ibig sabihin, kung hindi constant yung composition of materials sa basin, specifically yung surficial content. Kumbaga, yung top layer ay nawawash away, but at the same time, a new layer is being deposited by new eroded materials from the highlands, which is brought, as I have said earlier, by the drainage system. Ayan. So that is all for the Central Luzon Basin.
Good day everyone. I am Paul Andre Rosal and I'll be representing the Zambales Range. It is a significant geological feature in the Philippines. Located on the western part of the Luzon Island, this mountain range stretches across 5 provinces: Zambales, Bataan, Pampanga, Pangasinan, and Tarlac. Its proximity to the South China Sea makes it a prominent coastal landmark. Let's dive deeper into its fascinating geological history. Now, let's explore how this range formed millions of years ago. The Zambales Range has a unique origin tied to oceanic crust formation. Its central fault, known as the Zambales Ophiolite, dates back to the late Jurassic to early Cretaceous period. This ophiolite complex consists of geological groups, the Apogee Block and the Coto Block. These blocks provide clues about the range formation under different tectonic conditions. The Apogee Block is the older segment of the Zambales Ophiolite. It's composed primarily of volcanic rocks called island arc thodolites, indicating it formed in a volcanic island arc environment, likely near a subduction zone. This suggests the block was once part of an active tectonic boundary where oceanic plates collided. Now, let's contrast this with the younger Coto Block, which tells a different story. During the Eocene epoch, the Coto Block of the Zambales Ophiolite formed under different conditions. Unlike the Apogee Block, the Coto Block contains transitional mid-ocean ridge basalt, indicating it originated at a mid-ocean ridge, where new oceanic crust is created through seafloor spreading. This duality highlights the dynamic tectonic processes that shape the Zambales Range. Moving forward in geological time, the Eocene to Oligocene period marked a critical phase for the Zambales Range. The oceanic crust formed earlier began to descend beneath the Philippine plate through subduction. During this process, portions of the seafloor, including the Zambales Ophiolite, were scraped off and accredited to the leading edge of the Philippine plate. This accretion event essentially stitched the ophiolite onto Luzon, setting the stage for its modern structure. But the story doesn't end here. Let's examine how tectonic forces continued to shape the range. From the Miocene to the present day, the Zambales Range underwent significant uplift due to ongoing tectonic compression. This uplift was followed by relentless erosion, which sculpted the range into the rugged landscape we see today. Think of it as a nature's slow-motion carving, where tectonic processes built the mountains and wind, water, and time wore them down. To better understand the Zambales Range composition, let's zoom into its ophiolite complex. The Zambales Ophiolite complex is a textbook example of a complete ophiolite sequence. It's oriented north-south and tips eastward, featuring layers of volcanic rocks, dike intrusions, and ultramafic cumulates like Harburgite and Terzolite. These layers are snapshots of ancient oceanic crust and mantle preserved on land. a mirror window into its deep processes. Now, let's explore how faults within this complex further shape the region. One of the most significant structures in the ZOC, or the Zambales Ophiolite Complex, is the Subic Bay Fault Zone. This fault divided two regions with distinct geological histories, acting as a boundary where tectonic stresses concentrate. Its presence highlights the complexity of the range formation and its role in Luzon active tectonics. Another key fault system reveals even more dynamic activity. The Lawis Fault. Running north-south along the Lawis River is a lateral strike-slip fault. This means rock on either side move horizontally past each other, fragmenting formations and uplifting specific zones. Such faults are common in regions like the Philippines, where plate interactions create widespread deformation. The Zambales Range is home to several notable peaks that showcase its geological diversity. The highest point is Mount Tapulaw, standing at 2,037 meters above sea level. Another significant peak is Mount Pinatubo, which is very famous for its catastrophic 1991 eruption that altered the regional landscape. We also find Mount Mariveles. The Zambales Range is drained by several important river systems. The Bukaw River carries lahar deposits from Mount Pinatubo's eruptions. To the north, the Santo Tomas River flows into Lingayen Cove, while the Tarlac River is influenced by both the range and volcanic activity. The Pamatawan River serves as a crucial water source for central Zambales agricultural areas. Now that we've seen the surface features, let's look at the underlying geological structures. The Zambales structures is heavily influenced by the Philippine Fault Zone. The primary feature is the Zambales Fault, which runs through the range and generates frequent seismic activity. These fault systems are responsible for the range, rugged topography, and ongoing geological instability. This tectonic activity is driven by large forces at work beneath the surface. The Zambales Range sits at the convergence boundary between two major tectonic plates, the Eurasian Plate and the Philippine Sea Plate. The range uplift and deformation result from the subduction of the Philippine Sea Plate beneath the Eurasian Plate. This ongoing collision continues to shape the region's geology today.
So, good day everyone. Before I start, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Shianderica Arpanoso, and today I'll be sharing with you something really interesting and important in Filipino geology, which is the Macolid Corridor. So, ano nga ba ang Macolid Corridor? Basically, it's a full apart rift zone. It formed dahil sa sharing or yung pagkiskisan ng dalawang malalaking tectonic features, the Manila Trench and the Philippine Fault. Yung movement nila in northeast to southwest and northwest to southeast direction nagresulta sa intense faulting sa area. Because of this tectonic activity, naging very active ang volcanism in this part of southwestern Luzon, especially during the Quaternary period. Kaya rin marami tayong active and potentially active volcanoes in this region. It's a great example of how tectonic forces can show not just the land, but also influence volcanic hazard and natural resources. The Bacolod Corridor, a volcanic and tectonic zone located in southwestern Luzon, Philippines. It's about 40 kilometers wide, and it stretches from Tagaytay Ridge in the north to Jala Jala Peninsula and from Batangas Bay down to Banahaw in the south. Kung titignan natin sa mapa, medyo malaki ang sakop ng corridor na ito, covering major parts of southern Luzon. This region is known for its active volcanism and tectonic activity. Ibig sabihin, dito madalas magkaroon ng pagputok ng bulkan at paggalaw ng lupa dahil sa mga faults at plate movements. The Corridor is a key geological feature because it's laid between two major volcanic belts, the Bataan Arc to the north and the Mindoro Arc to the south. Para mas madaling intindihin, para itong gitnang bahagi sa pagitan ng dalawang aktibong volcanic zone. The area is highly volcanic and geological active, shaped by the complex tectonic processes. Ito ay dahil sa interaksyon ng iba't ibang crustal blocks at mga subduction zone sa paligid. Yung subduction, ito yung proseso kung saan lumulubog ang isang plate sa ilalim ng isa pang plate na nagdudulot ng mga lindol at pagbuo ng mga bulkan.
So, let's now talk about at the rock composition in the region. Yung mga bato from both the Bataan and Mindoro arcs range from basalt to yolites, that's mga pictopulsic rocks. And they show typically cal-alkaline features which is common sa subduction-related volcanic arcs. Pero, interestingly, the rocks from the Macolid Corridor and the Mindoro Arc are chemically distinct. They are particularly enriched in large ion lithophile elements or like rare earth elements and also have higher level of radiogenetic strontium compared sa Bataan Arc. So, these geochemical signatures suggest a different magma source or possibly coastal contamination, which tell us more about the tectonic and magmatic processes at play in this area.
Following to that is the role of continental coastal material, especially in the Macolid Corridor and the Mindoro Arc. Studies suggest na malaki ang contribution ng continental crust sa magma composition in this area. In particular, both regions show sign of source contamination, meaning nahaluan yung magma ng coastal material coming from the North Palawan to Mindoro coastal block. This could happen in two ways. Una, during the collision of the coastal block with the Manila Trench, or pangalawa, to the subduction of sediment-rich and this continental material. This mixing affect the geochemistry of volcanic rocks and support the idea that the tectonic history of this area is complex and deeply influenced by interaction between oceanic and continental plates.
So, let's proceed for the next slide.
The Macolid Corridor is an important geological zone in the Philippines because it's marked the junction where various tectonic elements interact. First, it's influenced by the subduction-related processes happening along the southern end of the Manila Trench. Kapag sinabi natin subduction, nga sinabi ko na rin kanina, ito yung paggusong ng isang tectonic plates sa ilalim ng isa pa and its volcanic and seismic activity in the region. Second, there is an arc content collision occurring in the southwest part of the corridor. Dito naman, nagbabanggaan ng mga oceanic arc at ang continental landmass, which further contributes to the area's complex tectonic setup. So, lastly, there is a north-east oriented sharing caused by the movements between two major faults, which is the Manila Fault and the Sibuyan Verde Passage Fault. Yung sharing, ito yung paggalaw ng mga faults na parang paghatak sa dalawang direksyon. And adds to the deformation and seismicity observed in the region. Kaya masasabi natin na ang Macolid Corridor ay isang napaka-aktibong geological zone at mahalagang pag-aralan para maintindihan ang volcanic at earthquake hazard sa Luzon. Another key feature of the Macolid Corridor, the intense volcanism, especially during the Pliocene to Holocene period, which meant relatively recent in geological time. Within the corridor, we can find two major
volcano-tectonic depression, the Taal Caldera and the Laguna de Bel Caldera. These are massive structures formed by explosive eruption and collapse of large magma chambers. Aside from those, meron ding 3 stratovolcanoes, which is Mount Makiling, Mount Kista, and Mount Banahaw, all of which are known for their size and history of activity. On top of that, the region has over 200 small monogenetic volcanic features, meaning they erupted only once. These include scoria cones, lava domes, Mars, scattered all throughout the area. This tells us how volcanically active and geologically complex the Bacolod corridor really is.
Next up, also from the southwestern region of Luzon, we have here the Mindoro Marinduque Romblon Island Group, or the MMR Island Group. It is a group of islands that includes Mindoro, Marinduque, and Romblon, and it geographically lies between southern Luzon and northern Visayas, making these islands a transitional zone between Luzon and Visayas. Its tectonic settings, on the other hand, is within the Philippine Mababal, which is why Palawan Island, despite administratively part of the same region as these 3 islands, is not part of this group since it sits on the Palawan microcontinental block. This region or group of islands also shows a different tectonostratigraphic character from one another. One is an arc, another is a continental or metamorphic, while the other is a combination of both. So first, we have the heart-shaped island of the Central Philippines, the Marinduque Island. Marinduque Island is part of the Southwest Luzon tectonostratigraphic group, which corresponds to its arc or volcanic arc stratigraphic character. One of the major tectonic features of Marinduque that helps in understanding the geology and tectonics of Marinduque Island is the Marinduque Basin, which is an intra-arc basin, or a sedimentary basin that forms within a volcanic arc, the North Central Philippine Volcanic Arc System. It is also divided into 3 parts: the North and South Sub-Basin and the Central Volcanic Ridge that divides those sub-basin. The photo here shows the interpretative line drawing of the Marinduque Basin from the magnetic anomaly. We can see here that the North Sub-Basin is much steeper and deeper from the South Sub-Basin, and these two are divided by the Central Volcanic Ridge. This photo here, on the other hand, shows the genetic model for the evolution of the Marinduque Basin. It shows the progressive widening and lengthening of the stopover zone, accompanied by the development of seafloor spreading across the Central Volcanic Ridge. Starting with the A, we can see the incipient spreading, or the early stage of spreading. This is where the initial rifting started, which also helps in the creation of the faults. Next up is the B, where it continued to stretch, which leads to the seafloor spreading on the Central Volcanic Ridge. Then the C, where the evolution stops. This is where the structural topography is varied or subdued, and the activity on the Philippine Fault begins, leading to truncation or cutting off of the east end of the volcanic ridge. Another feature in Marinduque is its in situ ophiolite development, or the natural formation and emplacement of ophiolites in the region, rather than being transported over the long distance. Its creation is due to the evolution of Marinduque Basin. Most specifically is the seafloor spreading that happened, which led to the creation of oceanic crust. And then the Philippine Fault contributes to the uplifting of this ophiolite sequence. And lastly, we have the Mount Maligdig, a potentially active stratovolcano responsible for the magmatic and tectonic activity of the island. Moving forward, we have here the Mindoro Island. Mindoro is tectonostratigraphically divided into 2 regions. The northern Mindoro, which has an intra-arc stratigraphic character that corresponds to the arc character of the southwest Luzon, and the southern Mindoro, which has a continental or metamorphic stratigraphic character that corresponds to the North Palawan block. The major tectonic activity that happened in Mindoro is the arc continental collision between the Philippine Mobile Belt and the North Palawan Block, which led to the creation of the Mindoro Suture Zone. The Mindoro Suture Zone is an interplate strike-slip boundary separating the Mindoro Block from the Palawan Block. The box area in the photo is the Mindoro Suture Zone, and on the bottom of it is the Palawan Block, constituting the continental tectonostratigraphic character. And the north of the Mindoro Suture Zone is the Mindoro Block. It has a metamorphic character, and it is bounded by the East Mindoro Fault Zone in the eastern side and the Mindoro Suture Zone in the southwestern side. Next, we have here the schematic diagram for the tectonic evolution of Northwest Mindoro. Starting from the middle to late Jurassic is the collision and subduction of the Izanagi Plate beneath the southeastern margin of mainland Asia. Next is the Cretaceous, where the materials from the Izanagi Plate were incorporated in the accretionary complex, followed by the backthrusting, forming part of the protolith or original unmetamorphosed Halcon metamorphics. It is the green with pink blocks in the figure. However, due to the continued accretion, it resulted in the metamorphism of the Halcon metamorphics. And lastly, from the middle to late Miocene, the spreading continued, which resulted in the formation of the South China Sea oceanic lithosphere and subsequent emplacement of the amniophyolite, which is the violet color in the figure. And then it collided with the Philippine Mobile Belt, or most specifically, it collided in the Mindoro Island, leading to the creation of the basement rocks of the northwestern Mindoro, the Mindoro Metamorphics or the Halcon Metamorphics. And then we have the La Sala Formation, which unconformably overlies the Mindoro Metamorphics. This formation suggests or supports the idea that the Mindoro is the geological boundary of the Sandaland and the Philippine Mobile Belt. Lastly, we have the amniophyolite, a fragment of the South China Sea that is in place in Mindoro due to the oceanic spreading and arc continental collision of the Middle-Late Miocene period. Finally, for the last member of the MMR group, we have the Romblon. Romblon or Romblon Island Group is a group of islands consisting of 20 islands and islet, and the three major islands is the Romblon, Sibuyan, and Tablas. Unlike the southern Mindoro, Romblon Archipelago is part of the North Palawan Block tectonostratigraphic group, making its stratigraphic character continental or metamorphic. Some of the important geological units of Romblon is the Romblon Metamorphics, which is believed to be part of the Palawan Continental Block, and the Sibuyan Ophiolite Complex, an ophiolite sequence believed to be brought by the arc continental collision of the Palawan Microcontinental Block and the Philippine Mobile Belt. Overall, the Mindoro Marinduque Romblon Island Group or the MMR Island Group showcases a diverse and complex geological history shaped by tectonic collisions and subduction processes. Each island reveals a unique stratigraphic character. Marinduque with its volcanic arc features, Mindoro with its dual arc and continental traits, and Romblon with its continental and metamorphic foundation, all shaped by their positions within or near the Philippine Mobile Belt. Further, these islands gives us insight on the oceanic crust formation with the deposition of their ophiolite sequences. Marinduque with its in situ ophiolites, and Mindoro and Romblon with their ophiolites that shows the remnants of the seafloor spreading of South China Sea. Together, they form a crucial transitional zone that reflects the dynamic tectonic evolution between Luzon and the Visayas.
Hello everyone, my name is Tricia May P. Diego, and let us now continue to the Bicol Peninsula. The geologic setting of Bicol Peninsula or Bicol Arc occupies a 260-kilometer long, northwest-southeast oriented, elongated continent that is approximately 15,237.86 square kilometers. The Philippine Fault Zone and the Philippine Trench are the two main tectonic formations that enclose this area. The subduction of Philippine Plate along the Philippines Trench is associated with sequence andesitic volcanic centers in Bicol Peninsula. Among the notable volcanic arcs that make up the Philippine Mobile Belt, or PMB, is the Bicol Volcanic Arc. The distance is 260 kilometers from Camarines Norte to Sorsogon in Bicol Peninsula. A volcanic arc spans the PMB's central eastern edge. The active volcanoes in Bicol Peninsula are Mount Bulusan and Mount Mayon, while the inactive volcanoes are Mount Labo, Mount Kulasi, Mount Cone, Mount Isarog, Mount Iraga, Mount Sagnay, Mount Malinaw, Mount Saragasa, Mount Bintacan, and the Bacon Matino Complex. Mayon is a stratovolcano, a composite cone formed from lava flows, pyroclastic flows, airfall deposit, and debris flows. It stands around 2,462 meters above sea levels and has a base circumference of 62.8 kilometers. Bulusan lies at the southeast end of Bicol Volcanic Arc in the Philippines. It is flanked by several other large intercaldera, lava domes, and cones, and its summit contains a 300-meter wide and 50-meter deep crater. Three small craters are located in southeast flank. Moderate explosive eruptions have been recorded since mid-19th century. The general shift in the tectonics of the Philippine region is linked to the absence of Guadatiban-Wave zone in the northern portion of the arc. Since the Palawan continental block entered the Manila subduction zone west of Luzon, activity along the Manila subduction zone has stopped. As a result, the subduction polarity has shifted to the eastern side of Luzon. Because of this, the plate boundary that is connected to the northern portion of the Philippine Trench has changed from being the subduction zone to its transformed fault. As a result, the subduction beneath the northern Bicol volcanics has likewise stopped. The major structural feature of the area is the Philippine Fault, which lies to the west of Bicol Peninsula. A number of second-order shears run up the Philippine Fault and divide the peninsula into a series of gravens and horsts. This overall tensional tectonic regime is a result of the coupled rotations of the area west of the Philippine Trench produced by the portion of the northwest vector of the movement of the Philippine Plate, which is not fully taken by the subduction in the southwest direction. Along the western part of the peninsula is a series and folds, the most prominent of which has been called the Albay Syncline. This deformation appears to predate volcanism and reflects an early compressive tectonic environment. Calc-alkaline andesites are the predominant rock type of Bicol volcanics, although basalt and basaltic andesites are found along with the dacites, particularly as late-stage domes, where rhyolites have also been reported occurring as specific perlitic domes south of Legazpi and as an ignimbrite in the Gate Mountains. Structural geology of Bicol Peninsula. In the panel A, it shows the regional geologic setting of the Philippine archipelago with the adjacent Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate. The large-scale tectonic features are also depicted, including the East Dipping subduction zones, the Manila Trench, Negros Trench, Cotabato Trench, and the Sulu Trench on the western side, West Dipping Trenches, East Luzon Trout, and Philippine Trench on the eastern side, and the resultant of Philippine Fault running across the archipelago. The white arrow indicates the movement direction of the Philippine Sea Plate, and the panel B shows the major structural features directly affecting Masbate, including the central Philippine Fault Zone, including the Ginayangan, Masbate, and Leyte segments, their approximate offshore projections, the Legazpi lineament, and the Sibuyan Sea Fault.
And that's the end of our discussion. Thank you all for joining us on this journey through the dynamic geology and tectonics of Luzon. We hope that this discussion sparked your curiosity and deepened your understanding of how powerful forces beneath our feet shape the land we live on. Until the next time, stay curious, and see you in the next discussion.